In this video I'm going to show you some tips and tricks on Corel, which is our main program here. So I'm going to use a practical example of some of the things that we do, or the majority of the things that we do here. Well, maybe not the majority, but one of the very important things that we do. So anyways, between the school year, like September to June, we send out a lot of promos to the schools for different clubs. So for example, we have soccer and baseball, golf, badminton, etc. And we do like the team uniforms and stuff like that. So one of the promos that we send out is this one right here. This is a soccer one. As you can see, they're all very basic. Like most of the logos involve only 1 or 2 colors, and we use the Econoprint to do this. So what would happen is we'd send out these order forms. This is the first page, this is the second page, and we get all these back. And then when we get them back all filled out, we would find out which item they want, and we'd have to take it off the order form. So let's imagine that somebody ordered item number 11. I'm just going to copy that to a new page. And it appears that I missed a piece of it. So I'll try that again. Oh wait, no I didn't. So this one comes out a little bit weird because it's on a blue shirt with a white foreground, and the background of our page is white. So I'm going to put a square behind it so you can actually see what I'm talking about. Here's a trick as well. If you right click on it, there's this order option, and that allows you to move shapes between each other. So I'm going to put this one 2 back, and as you can see, that's going to show up. So what we're trying to achieve here is our background. We want it to be blue. Well, there isn't really going to be a background when we cut out the Econoprint, because the background is the color of the shirt. But just for editing purposes, I'm going to do it on a blue square so you can see what happens. I'm going to try and tell you a couple of the tools and tricks. So the most useful tools are probably the weld and cutout tools. So for example, I'll give you an example of a weld. A weld tool would take 2 shapes and turn them into 1 shape. So what a vector is it's different from a JPEG in the fact that you can blow it up or make it extremely small, and nothing gets ruined in resolution because vector doesn't really have resolution. They're all just shapes that grow and shrink together. So for example, if I wanted to make this star, I could zoom in exponentially and it would not, there are no pixels. This image over here was made also by vector, and each color there, each gradient, is actually a different shape entirely. It's now a JPEG because you have to turn it to JPEG to put it on the screen as a background, but they're great files for if you're making banners, because you can make them huge and not lose any resolution and have good print quality. So what I'm doing here is I've duplicated the star shape that I've made, and I'm rotating it to make a shape. So right now we've got 2 different shapes. There's that one, and then there's the one underneath. But I want the shape to look like this together. So if you select them both, also in Corel, you have to select around the whole object for it to select something. For example, if I want to select pirates and I just get that much, it only selected what was in that space. It didn't select the outside box or anything else. So anyways, if I want to select both of these, I'm going to click that, and all the important tools come up here. So there's weld, there's trim, intersect, simplify, front minus back, and back minus front. The 2 I use the most is back minus front minus back, and weld. So I'm going to show you what the weld does. So now this shape has become 1. You can even see that the outlines changed just to be around that whole thing. You can't separate those into different stars anymore. And then what the back minus front or front minus back would do is, if I wanted a hole within that star, I would select those 2 shapes and remove it. you have a full shape with a hole in the middle. If you wanted to do something like Swiss cheese, oops. Like that, where you've got multiple items that you want to remove, you have to group them. Okay, so let's say I wanted to select all of these and remove them from the square at the back. Oh, that actually worked pretty well. Sometimes it doesn't work, and the reason why is because when you have multiple items, it doesn't know which one, like in multiple layers, it wouldn't know which one. So perhaps if I did it like that. Oh, it still works. Anyways, to group items, you select them all first. If you right click, there's the option to group, or Control G, and now whenever you touch one of them, it will actually select them all. And then you can, and I just walked them by accident. So, back to our promos and why that information is useful. If we go up into the top section where it says View, we can see the wireframe, and it looks like that. Now, when we send, basically you have to imagine that this whole image is in one color, which means it's one sheet that we're cutting it out of. All these lines are getting cut, and then somebody has to weed the excess parts out. But when you have this many intersecting lines, it's really difficult to weed in the image. So, when we get the promos back, our job is to get all these images into the right size and cut them out, and then get them on the shirts. So I'm going to show you how to do that really quickly. So right now I've got this shape in the back, which I suspect is a color, and it is, because I can change it, but that's really supposed to be the same colors of blue, which means it's not really there. It's supposed to be part of the shirt. So I'm going to use our our back minus front, or front minus back feature, and remove it. And as you can see, it turned blue because it's showing the background of this square, so it worked. Now, if you looked at the wireframe, there's like a circle thing going on over here. So what that is like the hexagons are separate, and then there's a circle in the back, and then the circle is on top of all those lines. So I'm going to zoom out for a second. What you should do is make a second page, in case you lose any information. We're going to copy that and paste it. And the nice thing is that it pastes in exactly the same spot. So if I were to accidentally move something off center and I wasn't able to get it back, I could go to page 2, copy it, paste it exactly back where it was. So we're on page 1 right now. That's a big circle, as I suspected. So I'm going to select that. I'm also going to select the thing beside it behind it by pressing Shift, and now I'm going to remove it as well. You will notice that the circle appeared to get thinner. That's because there was an outline around it, and when you remove the shapes, it just removes the shape with no outline. The outline doesn't add any width to it. Now I'm going to check the wireframe again, and I'm still having an extra line around here, so I'm going to try to figure out what's causing that and eliminate it. So I'm going to click something. You can use the arrow keys to move something because it'll move it exactly the same space back and forth. So I pressed it once and I press it again, it moves exactly back to where it was before. So what I've noticed there is that that's not touching the outside border. So I'm going to select the outside border and I'm going to weld those two. Now I'm going to look at the wireframe, and it looks the same as when we look at the enhanced version. So that is how the logo should look when it's ready for print. In this case, we'd be printing it on a we'll be printing it on a white sheet and putting it on a blue shirt. So if you were going to the next stage, which is cutting, you'd rename this page to white. and then it actually doesn't matter what color the image is. I'm just going to group it so things don't move around. Maybe I'll change the color so we can see it better. It's going to be printed out on a white sheet, so it doesn't matter. And the images for the sizing images can be found in the cutting tutorial. Basically, the biggest width it can fit across a shirt is 8.5 by 11. These ones, the soccer ones, tend to be longer lengthwise than widthwise, so we're going to type in 8 in the height area. This is also a very useful part of Corel, is you don't have to shrink and stretch things. You can put in the exact size into the input over here, and this represents that it's locked. So if I put 8 in, it grows it proportionally or shrinks it proportionally. If I unlock it and put So if you unlock it, you can shrink it not proportionally. So if I put 9 in here, it'll stretch wider to 9. But we usually don't ever do that unless we're doing text on the sleeves, because those sometimes end up coming out kind of funny. So as you can see, it takes up the whole page. The Econoprint rule sheets are in 14.2. So if you are not selected on anything, up here the page attributes will show up. So I just make the width 14.2, and then 30 is a good random number. And then if you had, say, 6 orders of these, you would orientate these in a fashion in which you could print 6 very well. Also, the rotate button is up here, or not button, feature. That way you don't have to like swing it by hand, you can just actually rotate it by typing in the angle. That's probably the most optimal way of fitting them together and get that many on and take up the most space, because the more space you lose, the more money you're burning. You can always use this space to put in hood logos. Hood logos are on the back of the promo sheet, so for an additional $4 you can get this soccer ball on your hood or sleeve, and you might as well print those out. Those go to about 2 inches, so that you fill up the space and get the most out of your material. And those are some of the tricks you can use on Corel. Alright, so another trick you can use is the contour line. The contour is used for things like this. There's a pretty extensive instructional report in the cutting tutorial about what to do with text like this, or things that use contours. That would be good to print out and follow along with. So, like I said before, the width across the shirt is usually the size of the page, so this time this one is more wide than it is long, so we're going to make that 11 inches across. There we go. And you will see in Object Properties, if you right click Select Properties, this will show up. We'll check here, and we do not have an outline, but we should, so. Oh wait, we do have an outline. So, as I suspected, there is this weird big outline, and the problem with outlines is that when you do them in the wireframe, they don't show up. They just come out, they're going to cut out as lines, like it's not going to work. So you actually have to put in the outline as a shape. So, first we're going to adjust the easy part, the main shape. I'm just going to change the outline color so we can see it a little bit better. First I'm going to cut that out. Let's see if that works, and this jump to the front. I'm going to drag this to attach better, and then pull it a little longer so the tail ends at the end of the lettering. Now I'm going to grab all the letters and weld them. I'm going to eliminate the outline altogether because we already know that it's not going to show up. Then we've got some weird things going on by the S and the tail. So I'm just going to go in there and edit the points, which you use. Which you use the shape tool right underneath the pick tool is what you can use to edit points.
I'll see you tomorrow.
Alright, bye.
Bye. Alright, see you guys tomorrow.
Oops. So I'm just going to move that over there. That's a little better. Move this here. It's nice and smooth now. Put that one. That one straighter. So now we have to figure out the outline part. I'm just going to clear off our page 2. And we're going to copy it, paste it, so don't lose any information. So for the outline, there's also the contour window, which if it's not already in your Corel, it's under Window, Docker's Contour, or Control F9. So I usually select to the outside, so it's going to make the contour based on the outside of the shape. Which, first you have to select the shape. And then you can pick a number over here. And apply it. And we'll see what happens. So we got a contour around it. It's not quite as thick as I wanted it. So I'm going to undo it. And you don't have to undo it, you can actually just keep adding. But I'd rather not. And that was too big. Almost. So it'll probably be. And that looks pretty good. So, the contour we still have to turn into a shape, which you do by arranging and breaking the contour group apart. If you move that, this should be a nice full shape. We're going to check by looking at the wireframe, and it is. And I can actually just remove the back from the front. This guy, and then we will do just looks like that. So, we print this out separately. Actually, we won't need this part from this part. But, there needs to be a little bit of overlap so that parts of the shirt doesn't show through. So again, you can do a contour on this one, but just make it a lot smaller. So there, that's not too noticeable. I'm going to arrange it, put a contour apart, and I'm going to weld it. And that should do it. And then you can multiply it as many times as you want and cut it out.